Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to That Triathlon Show, the podcast presented by scientifictriathlon.com. I'm your host, Michael, and this episode is Beginner Tip 15, where I'll talk about the 7 best investments beginner triathletes should make. I encourage you to listen to Beginner Tip 13 as well, alongside this one. That was about the worst investments that you can make. And in general, before any sort of investment in triathlon that you do, reference it against these 2 episodes. And if you're investing in something other than these best investments before you've ticked each of them off the list, then you're not really doing yourself any favors when it comes to maximizing how fast you can improve. Alright, so let's start with number 1, swimming lessons. Unless you're a swimmer, it is likely that this is an area where you have a lot of improvements to make by learning the right technique, learning the right way to train, and all sorts of things. Getting video analysis so that you can see yourself swimming and actually see from outside what it looks like, because that's something that is incredibly difficult to do without getting video analysis. So that is number 1. I would highly recommend you get one-on-one swim lessons or very small group lessons where each of you get individual FaceTime with the instructor and that you get video analysis done as part of that. Number 2 is getting a triathlon coach. And if you're a beginner, then in an ideal world, then this could be somebody who is local to you, who you could also get those swim lessons from. And even better, also bike and run sessions. That would be a great thing. If that's not possible, then you can definitely go remotely. For example, I coach several beginners remotely and it works very well. And you can also email me if you're interested in that, of course, or look around wherever. But I think that for beginners, if you have access to those group sessions by a triathlon coach or private swim lessons with them, then that is something that is worth considering. Of course, usually then you would end up paying quite a bit because you also get those sessions, but look around and see what works best for you. If you find a local coach that inspires confidence and you can get these other things as well that's not possible to get remotely, then that might be the ideal investment to make for a beginner. Number 3 on the list of best investments is a physiotherapy or several physiotherapy assessments. I can't overemphasize how important this is, and this is something we discussed recently in episode 114, which is called Injury Prevention and Recovery Methods for Triathletes with Nate Koch. Getting us an assessment, even if you're not injured, that will help raise flags if there are any areas like lack of mobility or flexibility, or just areas that are very tight, areas of fascia that you need to release from your muscles to not have problems pop up later. Those sorts of things are all things that it's worth going to see a physio at least one time, but ideally a couple of times, and get some sort of routine, because let's face it, I think that nobody would go to such an assessment and they would say, you're perfectly fine, you can just go on and get training. They will find something that is a risk, and that you can mitigate by doing some exercises that they will prescribe specifically for you. So this is absolutely a fantastic investment to make as well. Number 4 is getting a bike fit. Nothing that you can do on the bike will benefit you as much as having a proper bike fit, and by that I mean nothing you can do in terms of investing in it. Certainly no equipment comes even near that of having a bike fit. And again, relating to the previous point, with a bike fit you'll greatly reduce that injury risk. So this is something that you should absolutely do. By the way, with all of these things that I mentioned so far, and some of those things that are coming up later, swim lessons, triathlon coach, physiotherapy assessment, bike fit, ask around in the local community who are the best providers of these services, who are the people that triathletes in your area go to, because for bike fitting, for example, it's worth going to somebody who's maybe a bit more expensive, but also a very reputable, experienced, and good bike fitter to get it done really, really well the first time around, compared to cheaping out on it and having something that may need to be adjusted pretty soon later on. Number 5 is to get some sort of membership to get access to group training, whether it's a triathlon club with sessions that you can join, a master swim club, all those sorts of things. Even if it's just a free thing, such as joining your local cycling club for their Sunday coffee rides, that counts, and that's not even an investment of anything other than your time. And actually, an interview that I did just yesterday, it won't be released by the time that you hear this, probably, but it will come up later in a few weeks, with 2 age groupers, Jordan and Jesse. They, and especially Jesse, uses this a lot, like to get motivation, to get the social aspect from training, and to get to learn the sport much more quickly by joining all sorts of sessions that have group sessions. So whether it's a swim club, going with the cycling club for their rides, and doing track sessions together. But I think for beginners, all of these things, motivation, staying motivated, getting the social aspect, so not feeling that it's just a drag and you're out there on your own and doing these things, and obviously learning and improving so much quicker by getting tips from others, not just your coach or your coach and the swim instructor or whatever you have in your support group, but even other members that are experienced and that welcome you to these sessions and give you a few pointers here and there. That adds up in the long run and will make you so much faster, so much more quickly. Next, number 6 is very relevant for a lot of athletes. If you are busy, you have a busy schedule, a limited time to train, anything that buys you more time to train or buys you time to train at all in the first place is a great investment. I talked a little bit about this in previous episodes, I believe. These can be things like a weekly cleaning service, or gardening if that's something that you spend a lot of time on, or if you spend a lot of time making food, then good quality food delivery, not any sort of bad quality food. You need to make sure, if you go down that route, that it's actually healthy, good food. Investment, it's an investment in your health and in your lifestyle, because getting these services done for you, that will buy you some time that you can spend training, and that is invaluable. You can't put a price on that, really. So I would highly encourage you to do that if you find that one of your main barriers to training, to get started, even to get motivated, is that you don't really have the time. So yeah, anything that buys you more time to train is a very important investment. Finally, number 7 on this list is a GPS watch like a Garmin. And this can be very useful when you get started with a coach and you get some training zones. He or she will tell you that you should only run this fast for your easy runs, but then you have this track interval and then you should run this fast, etc. You don't need to buy anything fancy. You can usually find very good options secondhand for very cheaply, or even on sites like Wiggle, Amazon. They tend to have these campaigns where you can find good watches for really bargain prices. So a GPS watch is very valuable to keep you in check when you should go easy, and to make sure you go hard enough when you should go hard. I think that it's super useful, but I also want to emphasize that it's number 7 on this list for a reason. These other things that I mentioned are more important than getting that Garmin. And so this is a common thread here, actually, that I want to elaborate a little bit on. The Garmin is the only piece of stuff, the only physical thing on this list. The other things are services or one-off things, like, or even intangibles like joining a group for training. So, and from my personal experience, this is absolutely the way it should be. I did all of these things, except I didn't buy myself time, because I had time in that situation of my life, because I didn't have a family, and I think I was single at the time, so I had nobody that that needed my time other than myself. I could really control it, and I prioritized it. So I did my work, I did my studies, and I did my triathlon, and that was it. So I had enough time to train. But for many of you, that's not the situation. In that case, that becomes important. And all the other things I did, I got the swim lessons, I got a triathlon coach, I got swim lessons locally, one-on-one, triathlon coach remotely, I got physiotherapy, I came into it with a running injury, so I had very regular physiotherapy, I got a bike fit, and I didn't have much. Yeah, I joined a cycling club, so I did group training with a cycling club, and that's it. Yeah, a GPS watch I also got. So I got it all, and I think that's something that I really attribute how quickly I managed to improve to. That I did the right investments, and I didn't waste my money on crap like gear stuff to put on my bike that may make me look nice and aerodynamic, but that in the long run doesn't have much of an impact on how I'm going to improve as an athlete. And I would say that even though this is a beginner tip, I would keep this list the exact same way also for intermediate and advanced athletes if you're listening in. And I think that a lot of you are, because I've seen the download numbers. So I think that all these things still apply. This is the order that it should go. These are the big value, the high leverage points of investments that you can make. All right, I hope that you enjoyed this beginner tip. As always, you can contact me and send me questions or topic suggestions for future tips on michael@scientifictriathlon.com, and that's Michael with a K, or you can tweet me on Twitter where my handle is @SciTriat. In the next beginner tip, I don't really know what I'll talk about yet, so I look forward to those emails so that I can come up with something good. But I'll see you next Friday, and also obviously listen in on Monday and Thursday. If you haven't already, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. That helps me keep the show alive. Thank you, as always, for listening. Keep training smart and keep loving triathlon.